So step by step, our meeting is going to the end. And now I have a very special moment. I want to invite Professor Sigismund Kobe. And I want to say you, before he starts, I want to say you that for us here in Lviv, he is, there is a special German word, pate, which means in Ukrainian Chresny Tato, and in English, Godfather. So for Ising lectures in Lviv, he is indeed the pate, because the story is the following. It was 1997, and we had a meeting, Middle European Cooperation in Statistical Physics. It was in Poland, in Szklarska Poręba. And for us here in Lviv, as for you also, but especially for us, Ising model is very important. We all are born from the Ising model. It was almost all of us. At the end of the 70s, our teacher, and now he is honorary director of our institute, Professor Yuchnovsky, he was applying collective variables approach to solve Ising model. And we were students then, we learned about Ising model from him. And we thought that I thought that Ising, that's the person from the beginning of 20th century, and I never thought that he is my contemporary. And then 1997, in Szklarska Poręba, we meet a group from Lviv, we meet Professor Sigismund Kobe, and he tells us that Ising still is living in the United States, in Peoria, and Professor Kobe met him, and he visited him in Peoria and talked to his wife, and it was a huge surprise for us. Then returning back to Lviv, it was in spring, we organized Ising lectures. And at that time, already the paper of Professor Kobe was written. It was in Journal of Statistical Physics about Ising. And he gave us an off-print. And the first speaker at these first Ising lectures, was Professor Kobe, who was not in person in Lviv, but it was text of his article. And I think maybe me or maybe some of colleagues read this article. So when you look on the list of speakers of Ising lectures, 1997, speaker number 1 was Professor Kobe. And one more thing that also we were doing disordered systems, disordered magnets in Lviv, and 2 pupils of Professor Yuchnovsky. One was Professor Vakarchuk, late rector of our university, and then he was Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine. Another one was Professor Rudavsky, also late rector of Polytechnical University in Lviv. They were interested in disordered magnets. And at those times, the book by Professor Kobe, with the title Amorphous Magnets and Antiferromagnets, it has been translated in Russian and published in Moscow. And for us, it was, the book, we made seminar on this book. I was PhD student, and every week we were doing one more chapter from your book. So you are present intellectually and spiritually in Lviv for a long time. And now I have an honor and a pleasure to invite Professor to tell us several words. You are welcome, Professor.
Thank you for this nice talk. I am very like it, and but now it is a great pleasure on behalf of the audience from all over the world to thank Professor Yuri Holovach for organizing this very traditional Ising lecture seminar series. It is really an institution, so to say, for all over the years, and just in these years, under the special conditions, special circumstances, it was also very special. And so, again, say many thanks to Yuri, but also many thanks to Oksana, Mariana, Myrto, and Christine. You all have done an excellent job this year. Thank you. Furthermore, we would like to thank the chairman and the chairwoman for this effort in this meeting. This was also special for the chairpersons because the chair was in the own home at home, and that in this year. And we have to thank all the speakers. We get new insights about new developments in statistical physics and in the area of cooperative phenomena. And we all know that all these cooperative phenomena has to do some things with Ising model or are related in the Ising model. We would like to thank all who have participated in this meeting and to have participated in the discussion. It is under these special circumstances. Thank also to Tom Ising for giving us insights in the family history, especially in the family of his grandmother Thekla Löw and the full Freudenberg story. We have learned about the fate of Ernst Ising and the struggle of Ising model in the talks by Reinhard Volk. Of course, Ernst Ising had been very lucky at least 3 times in his life. First, it was 1918. The First World War was over before the military training for Ernst Ising was finished. And so he was not sent to the front to fight in the army of the Deutsche Kaiser, German Emperor. And this is really a very lucky situation. Second, it was 4 years later, in the year 1922, he met Wilhelm Lenz. And it is not necessary to explain that a student must be lucky if he had a good supervisor. And this was the case, as you all know. The third was again 4 years later, 1926, he met Johannes Ehmer. It is said that she was strongly impressed by Ernst, but not perhaps by the quality of solving the Ising model to make some probability estimations for flipping spins. No, she was strongly impressed by his ability to recite German poems from memory. So the poems of Goethe and Schiller, and he loved the classical humanist literature and so on. And to this point, I give you now an example. Just 25 years, now 25 years ago, I was invited by Ernst and Johanna Ising to visit in Peoria. And at this occasion, they made a recitation together of the poem of Goethe, Prometheus. And I have a small sequence of this common speech, the common recitation from 1996. You have to remember that this speech was 80 years after learning the poem. So it was very difficult to remember the German words in the English survival environment. But unfortunately, the quality is not so good, and you have a little bit background noise, but perhaps you get some impression of this speech, and it takes only 20 seconds. So perhaps it is possible to play it twice. To first to hear the right speakers, and in the second time to look for the words. And so I would like to give the last word to Ernst and Johanna Ising, the last word in these Ising lectures. So perhaps we can. Is it? Okay.
Do you see?
Yes, we do see, but we don't hear the text.
Not yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, ready?
Dit Knabenbleib Düsseldorf, ein Eichenbüschel, Bergvögel, müssten wir meine Erde doch lassen stehen. Und meine Hütte, die uns gebaut, und meinen Herd, um den du mich beneidest.
This was the short sequence. Perhaps once more.
Yes,
Can
yes,
you
please, yeah.
repeat it, replay it?
Of course.
Über den Knabenbleib Düsseldorf, ein Eichenbüschel, Bergvögel, müssten wir meine Erde doch lassen stehen. Und meine Hütte, die uns gebaut, und meinen Herd, um den du mich beneidest.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much, Professor Kobe, for this very kind verse and for conveying us the message from the person who then was 96 years old and his wife, who was then 94 years old, and they recited poem in German by heart. That's remarkable. Thank you so much. And in general, thank you for conveying us story about Ernst Ising. Just what I wanted to add, of course, our cordial thanks, and also our cordial thanks to our home institution, to the Institute for Condensed Matter Physics. I am happy that now our director, Igor Mrehlot, is here, so in his person, I want to thank from the organizers to him and to the Institute, where we always have support. You know, we always have support in our institute, but when we say Ising lectures, it is kind as a password. We say this and they help us immediately. Also, Deputy Director Mykola Patsahan, who is not here, he is also very, very helpful. So many, many thanks to them. And of course, thanks to our dear lecturers, because in a way it was self-organized. Ising lectures every year, they are organized by you. And this time when we enjoyed these excellent lectures given by the beginning, it was a lecture by Reinhard Volk, then by Bertrand Bersch, by Jonathan Donges, Ralph Kenna, and today this wonderful group from Berlin of Pavel Romanchuk, Winnie Poel, and Luis Gomez. And our chairman, Wolfert Janke, and Juan Ruiz Lorenzo, and Gebo Shanin, we evaluate very, very much what you do for us. And when we say organizers, and indeed there were 4 young persons whom you either hear or you were in touch with them. So Oksana, today you see Oksana in this helping you all to maintain connection by Microsoft Teams, which is very important. But if you were in person in Lviv, you will see that Oksana is in charge of also very important thing, because afterwards we always go to the mountains and she is our leader when we go for hiking. Mariana, who was the chairman during the first day, he is in charge when you look for the Ising lecture site. That's her work with Petros Arkanes, and she is in charge of the program, and all of you were in contact when you were sending your abstracts to her. Christia, that the person who produces this very nice poster every year. And Metro is very important when you come to Lviv in person, because he is in charge of hotels. When you find some accommodation in Lviv, that's Metro who is in charge, and also he was very helpful sharing yesterday. So that's our people, and this group, these people whom I mentioned, they are very young. Metro is PhD student, and 3 girls, they are doing their habilitation and they are doing research. That also shows us that our Ising lectures have a future. So I add my cordial thanks to every one of you. Thank you very much. And if somebody else wants to say something, you are very welcome. And otherwise, we finish. Okay, then.
My opinion is that it
Yeah.
was so valuable event in the academic and non-academic sense, which is a lesson from Ising lectures today. Thank you so much. I regret that I joined this team so late, but I'm happy that I have finally joined it.
Thank you very much. Professor Larissa Bryzek is from the Bogolyubov Institute of Theoretical Physics in Kyiv, so she joins us from Kyiv. So then goodbye this year, and looking forward to meeting all of you, to welcoming you next year in person in Lviv. Goodbye.